It's 2:25. We're going to come back to order in open session. And I would ask Ms. Henry, do we have anybody sign up for public comment? I don't believe we do. So item 6 we can dispense with. Item 7 is presentation and discussion of the update report by the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee regarding customer service, business center practices, procedures and policies, customer concerns and complaints, billing forms and procedures, and LP&L staffing. Mr. McCullough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. Page 14, I just want to call your attention that we are now doing tree trimming by social media. You see the bottom thing there? The customer complains about trees, and we offer to help him out. The outage report, you'll see we took a little blip up in August this year. That's on page 15, kind of right-hand column. I'm going to, at a future meeting, I'm going to present some statistics that we're working on that look at the outages throughout our system and where the outages rank the figures from top to bottom. And then we're going to focus maintenance activities on the previous figures that are worse. I think you'll be interested in multiple. So that'll be a future meeting. On page 16, I just noticed at the bottom there, 3,394 customers still came into the lobby for service, but average wait time was only 5 minutes, which I thought was pretty good. And we've had a lot of compliments on the greeters that we have in the lobby now, so I think that's good. That's good touch that's been added recently. You might notice halfway up on that page, the electronic billing amount is still fairly large. It's close to 69%. We had a contest that just concluded, and we had a winner of one of the CSRs, that Debbie Rosales, that won the contest. Connected, convinced a bunch of customers to go into EUB. I don't know how many customers it was. 109 points. What does that equate to? 109 points.
It's a little under 100 because there's higher points for master accounts or commercial industrial.
So roughly convinced 100 customers to switch over to EUB, which I thought was pretty good.
David, we should hit our 10% e-bill goal by the end of this month.
Yeah. And then on page 24, you can see the new customers that are added. You got some fairly large ones there. Covenant, of course, covenant work that's going on. The new tire, the Cotton Court Lubbock Hotel, which is going to be, I guess, not too far from Mr. Odom's place, right across the street from your place there.
Created a mess now, let them.
Yeah, they have created a mess.
Yeah. That's
But that's good. It's a good. It's probably
just good to
look at hotel. Yeah, I've seen it.
And then I had a few slides that I was going to share with you as well, stuff that couldn't talk about in the executive session. I'll go through these pretty quick. Okay, so these are the two dockets for the first two CCNs for the cases Ogallala to Abernathy and the Abernathy to Wadsworth to be filed later this month. In project 48113, which is the sort of the tracking docket, tracking project, we filed our second quarterly report, and then we did that one joint with Sherryland this month. We've executed, just telling the commission that we've executed an agreement for who's going to build it and own it. We also mentioned this RPG work that happened, which allows us to have some different options on the option 40W that we've talked about before. Met with PUC staff, and then just the schedule for the filings, reported on the schedule and filings for the CCNs. With regard to ERCOT, our staff has continued to cooperate with ERCOT. Eduardo, I think, is in the room. His staff has been getting to know the ERCOT folks pretty well and sharing information with them. And ERCOT also filed a second quarterly report with PUC, confirmed the RPG modifications, mentioned CCN activities, and it was a very positive report. Talked about us cooperating with them, participating in their steady state working group, and continue to work together. Any questions?
Questions on,
I'll just add to it very quickly, as it relates to all of this work that's going on. I'll be down in Austin on Monday and Tuesday talking to Governor's Office speaker, like our delegation, various different legislative offices, just to brief them on where we are in all of this. I told them that I would come back after basically Labor Day to brief them on our progress on all of these different items. And so, after I have all of those meetings, if there's anything I need to convey back to the board, I'll report on that this next month. But I imagine it will just be a general update of where we are in progress.
very good. Any questions for Mr. McCullough and Mr. Rose concerning the director's report, or anything else in the packet that would cover that, those issues? Hearing no questions or comments, then let's go to item 8. That would be presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, financing options, audits, and financial policies of Lubbock Power and Light related to debt issuance issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, revenue and expense projections, purchase power cost recovery factor, and customer metering, billing, and service issues. Mr. Sage.
Yes, sir. So we'll start with purchase power, and we've included this the last few months just to demonstrate the heating degree days and cooling degree days, just to give you some metrics on how hot this summer's been and why that's really driven some of our over collection. You can see May was 106, was the highest temperature, 108 in June, 105 July, and 100 in August. So we're starting to come down, but temperatures, it's been a hot summer, in case you didn't know that already. But this is the chart that Mr. McCullough introduced 2 or 3 months ago, just showing the cooling degree days in 17, which are these blue bars, versus the cooling degree days in 18. And you can see that every month from May to August has been quite a bit hotter. And so then at the top, using the secondary axis on the right, you can see our load, with the exception of August, which happened to be the same as last August, has been quite a bit hotter, and it's just running parallel relative to last year until August. But it just kind of demonstrates, we set our pass-through based on a normal sales of kilowatt hours, and when you have a summer like this, it just brings in more revenue than you had anticipated. Just like we always do. Where are our rates? We're at 112.63. Our friends in Amarillo are actually ticked up a little bit this last month. They're 119.32, and then the state survey average is 114.56. And so you can see we're actually the lowest of those three for the first time in a while. Per the tariff, we're to report to you on the over-under collection. When we ran the numbers through the end of August, we are 9.7 million over collected, so we're outside the band there. But this is also the month that we recommend a rate to you all for the winter. And then our goal is to be back within this boundary by the end of the winter season, which would be the end of May of 19. So just to give you some context and a little flavor on where we've been, we were at 119.44 in the summer of 17, going into basically a year ago, October 17 through May of 18. We dropped down to 116, with the pass-through being almost 7.5 cents. This past summer, we were able to lower rates just a little bit, from 7.4 cents to just shy of 7.1 cents, which lowered the bill for the average residential customer to 112.63. And the recommendation today is to lower rates just under 2% to the grand total being $111.27, but the pass-through rate for rate 1 would be 6.9 cents. So that's what I have on the pass-through. I'm happy to answer any questions on that. If there aren't any questions, I'm happy to move on to the regular financials.
So that would be the rate that would be instituted for the PPRF beginning October 1.
Yes, sir.
Unless there's a recommendation to do something else.
Okay. So the financials themselves, operating revenues, for all intents and purposes, are essentially where they were last year, within $800,000. You can see that this supplies, maintenance, and other is up about 2.4. It's really driven by the other category on the income statement. And it's really driven by the same things that we've seen all year long. It's the transition to Cupra, as well as ERCOT-related studies and legal fees and that kind of thing. So that's really what's driving that. Continue to see lower purchase power costs. But overall, year over year, we're about $3 million better at the same time compared to last year. On the balance sheet, cash is up. We over-collected, as I mentioned, in August, but we also over-collected in July. And so while we don't recognize that revenue, it's a deferred revenue, it is still cash coming in. And so that's part of it. We also are seeing some of the restricted investments decrease. And so we have a reimbursement resolution in place that as we spend CapEx out of our cash here, we pull it out of the restricted investments and move it up to cash. So as we see the CapEx increase related to the 2021 project, we've seen that jump up a little bit. One thing you will notice next month, if you'll recall, we sold bonds to the tune of about $105 million. That will appear here on the balance sheet in the restricted investments, and it will appear in the bonds payable in terms of the asset and liability side of the balance sheet. I don't have a slide on the statement of cash flows, but you'll also see $105 million show up in the statement of cash flows as well in the financing portion of that. So, in terms of budget, how are we doing through July? So this column here is how are we doing relative to budget for 17-18, but the last column, we're comparing how did July do relative to how 16-17 actually ended, not the budget. And so we use that as our benchmark. And you can see that revenues are down about 4%, but so are costs. And a lot of that is largely related to purchase power costs being quite a bit lower. So the things that stand out, again, we've kind of already touched on this. The transmission is quite a bit higher than it was relative to this time last year. And that goes back to the ERCOT-related studies and some of the legal fees associated with that. But everybody else, for all intents and purposes, is really either at budget or under budget. So,
Jim, real quick, I'm looking at page 29. What is the miscellaneous? It's an underfunded source. Or what would fund one?
The revenue part?
Yes, sir.
161,000.
Yes, sir.
I would have to look exactly. I don't
I
remember.
just saw that it was 121% of budget.
Right.
And rentals and recoveries. I was just curious.
Yeah, the rentals and recoveries, that's basically building rent here. But that's also companies that utilize our poles in the right-of-way, and so they rent from us and pay us for that. We're always going to set those budgets super conservative. But in terms of the miscellaneous, it's 3 or 4 accounts. I would have to look it up. I don't recall. Off the top of my head.
I just saw it a little higher.
Sure. It's always good to, I guess, to have it over budget on that side of the equation.
Yeah.
But I'll look into it and get to you. On the capital program, CapEx for the month of July was about $1.6 million. Overhead lines just shy of $600,000, and then Everything else was under a couple $100,000. So again, we'll see the program increase significantly on the balance sheet and on the statement of cash flows. You'll see that appear in next month in the financials. Happy to answer
Chair,
questions.
one quick, can we go back to the bonds?
Yes, ma'am.
We were appropriated today $160 million. At what point in time, we're paying off some, and we're getting some, where's the high bubble? When will be the point at which we've got the most appropriated?
Sure. That's a couple years out. So if you'll think back to our budget and that 5-year capital program, we just issued a whole bunch of debt. We've got the next 2 years as well, to where we'll continue to issue that, and then you'll start to see that.
So, some going on, but it will crescendo
Yes.
over the 2 years, and then.
Right. And then one thing that works in our favor, when the SBS system was purchased in 2010, that was financed 10-year debt. And so that's about $10 million a year. And that chunk of debt will actually fall off as some of this other debt's coming on. So the timing of it works out well.
Chet, when you look at the statement of cash flows, and I'm just going to reiterate that point on page 28. So through the end of July, our total CapEx, whether it's cash funded or bond funded, was $20 million.
Right.
So that's, to your point, that's going to go up as we complete more projects, or as we incur more project costs. On the cash flow side, the inflow of bonds, issuance of bonds, when we look at this statement for August, that's going to have over $105 million.
Right.
But then we'll also see a purchase of investments
Right.
of a like amount. So we're going to park that money in short-term funds for a period of time as we incur the right. And we're restricted as far as what can be invested.
Right.
We can't earn more in interest than we're paying, or we endanger the tax-free status.
But there's no limit how long we can park.
Generally, they want you to spend it in 3 years, I think, is the standard.
So we can probably put a lot.
And so to tie all that back together, something I mentioned at the very beginning was that we'll see the restricted investments increase. And that's where Mr. Taylor's talking about parking that money until we need it. So
There's also arbitrage calculation that's done
Right.
every year. As interest rates go up, if our short-term investments are earning more than the interest that we're paying, you refund that money.
You have to refund.
Right.
And the last question I had, so on our budget, the cash funded electric capital is about $12 million.
That's right.
And I can't ever remember if that's just a budget number that we put over there, or.
We do 1/12 every month.
1/12.
So it's actually going, yeah.
Right, okay. That's all my questions. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Shane. Okay, item 9 is presentation and discussion of the update and report by the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee regarding capital improvement projects within the program management for the 150 kV system conversion. So this is where that money's going, basically, that we issued those bonds for. Or actually, that's more related to the ERCOT Sharyland deal, but this would be our internal. Mr. McGinnis, I guess you're going to give us this.
Yes, sir. Just kind of a highlight on what the program that Eduardo and his folks are working on. I'd like to give him a little plug. He's keeping his staff very busy. And according to the mayor, they're going to get busier here in the near future. So he's done very well. I've got a presentation that that has some internal documents that I felt would be better viewed in front of you instead of up on the screen. They're full pages, so it doesn't view very well. And that's what I handed out to you. So move forward. What I'm going to kind of briefly go over is just an overview of where the program is, some of the substation projects, the transmission projects, the program budget that Eduardo's put together, and then I'll entertain any questions at the end. Just an overview, the program is on track. There are a number of substation projects, probably 5 and 7 to 8 transmission projects that are in different stages of work. You know, some of them are in engineering, some of them are in procurement, some of them are in construction at this point. The projects are progressing as according to schedule. We're going to introduce I tasked Eduardo with putting together a detail sheet, which is the sheet that I just handed out. We're going to kind of follow AMI's lead in giving a one-pager to kind of go over each project. AMI introduced that a couple of months ago, so we'll follow their lead. Substation projects, and the very first page in this handout that I had is Southeast Substation. You can see, according to the handout, that expended to date is close to $1 million. That is the amount that's hit the books. That's not the encumbered amount. That is the amount that has been spent. Some of the updates down towards the mid-page are the engineering. It is complete except for relay settings. Construction is underway. They've started the civil work to some of the additions to that substation. Some of the things that are upcoming, and at the very bottom of the page are issues and risks, which are at this point are none. We can go through all of them. Thompson, Slayton, they're in different stages of, some of them are in construction. The second page, Thompson, we can talk about construction. Branded, they mobilized on September the 15th, came back and what schedule are they working, Eduardo? Is it 14-4, or it's a different type of schedule that they wanted us to entertain, and we obliged them. Slayton, just over $1 million expended to date. The two graphs in the middle of the page, you can see that the projected versus actual. Some of the engineering, 90% drawings are in review. Physical package issued for construction, which is the steel and civil work, things like that. Construction has not started on this station to date, so fourth one in, Red Raider, very similar. Construction is scheduled to begin November of this year. McDonald has started. The construction was awarded to Brandon again. Mobile sub has been set out at McDonald to move some of that load over to where construction can start. The next set of items to look at are some of the transmission line projects, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but all of these are in the packet that I handed out. Various stages of construction, engineering. There's not really one that I wanted to point out. They're all progressing very well.
I think the reports are cool.
Go ahead.
Why are the projected and the actual not going to go that line throughout the time?
Which one are you?
I was looking at all of us trying to, like the projection,
You're looking at the graph on the right.
I'm looking at the one on the left and the right, yeah, the numbers that did slowly tick up and go up throughout the year, right?
They will.
In a perfect world, they come together at the end.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So it's not like we're ahead, it's just we prepaid on the second one anyway. This was prepaid, and then it plays out, and then it's used as in the blues, I guess. But ultimately, they hit each other,
At the very end, they will.
and that's just a problem.
That's correct.
Does that make sense, Neil?
It does, but
The cost that we have on here is just the invoiced amount.
okay.
It's not the encumbered amount. Now, we may have made commitments to purchase a transformer or some of the steel for the transmission lines, some of the wire, things like that. That's not reflected on this at this point.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Just to clear up something, I noticed on all of them here, down under the issues of risk, ground penetration radar survey locates has identified more obstructions within total location. What is that? What are the obstructions we're talking about?
Some of the instructions are gas lines, communication lines, what are some of the other ones?
Yeah, maybe it.
Sprinkler systems that are in between sidewalks and roadways, items such as that.
Okay, well, I was just hoping you didn't find any arrowheads.
No, sir, not at this point.
What is the hand, the prairie?
Well,
That's the chicken.
Prairie chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or barrel grounds.
Okay, Mr. McGinnis, now let me ask you something. So I'm looking at the Oliver Southeast. That's a transmission project,
Yes, sir.
okay? So we've got procurement, whereas as of this month, we're 75% through engineering and we're 25% through procurement. And construction's going to start a year from now, roughly.
July.
July, so 9-10 months. Am I getting that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when we go look at Erskine, McKenzie, and Thompson, and all those big projects, I was looking at the Northwest McKenzie. Yeah, there we go. I mean, all of those are, a lot of them have construction starting well after procurement and engineering. So I'm just asking the question, is that because of vendors, or is it because of, why is that?
Why are we starting construction well after?
Yeah,
It is, we packaged some of the procurement into multiple projects.
okay.
Auto transformers, some of the bigger transformers, we packaged steel poles in order to get out in front of it and give the vendor as much notice as possible to what's coming down the pipe. So that's the reason for that. They're not scheduled to deliver until, according to the construction schedule, but
There is an outage sequence that has to be followed pretty closely because you can't have multiple transmission lines out at the same time. You can, but I mean, there's limits on the transmission lines you can have at the same time. So there's a sequence that we're following
Okay.
that kind of causes those jobs in the schedule.
Okay. And when we're looking at these figures, so I want to make sure that I'm understanding them correctly. So now I'm looking at the Chalker-Oliver graph, which, well, it's right after Chalker-Thompson. So we show procurement at 90%, engineering at 90%, and actually construction at 60%. So does that mean that the $531,000 that we've expended to date is that 90% of the expected cost?
No, sir.
Okay, so what is that in percentage terms of the overall budget for that? Is it 60% or some other number? What's the overall budget for that line review?
Chalk it all.
Oliver?
What's CFP?
92406.
92406.
Just looking at that graph, it
It's
looks,
$4,365,000 is the budget for that CIP.
Where do you see that?
Page 40 of your financial report.
Oh,
that's not on this.
okay. Okay, well, I knew there had to be a key on that somewhere, right? 92406.
It's in the to-date column, which is the appropriation to date,
Gotcha.
and that's the 4.365 that Felix is
Blair,
referencing.
Blair, are these internal reports?
Yes.
Okay. I guess, but the internal reports, they don't have the actual total budget number included on there?
They don't,
Okay.
not at this point.
Right, that's what I think.
that'd be a good item to add if you can add a row.
No, take it. We'll get that on.
Go ahead, Don.
On procurement, on these long-term expensive equipment items, is there any upfront money on those, or will they all come at one time?
It depends on the contract, and I may ask Felix to step in on that, but there's like a 10% or a 20% upon signing the DO, and then, progress payments, yes, sir.
And that's only gonna apply to the steel poles only. Everything else is 30 days after receipt.
Including transformers, switches, everything like that?
Transformers, switches, all that, yes, sir, that's all 30%. Now, construction, that's a payment as, weekly payments, as they turn in their time sheets and all that good stuff. But the only one that's gonna have an adder as a percentage is gonna be the steel poles only. Everything else is net 30 after.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, waiting for more questions.
Okay. So basically, I mean, if we go through these project by project, they'll all be completed by June 2021.
Yes. If not
Well,
earlier.
this is kind of what I've been asking for, is the roadmap to how we're going to get there, project by project. I guess my suggestion would be, along the line of Mr. McMahon, that we see a combination of the cost that's over here on page 40 for each project number versus the expenditure today, so we kind of know where we are in the overall budget for each project. And then if you could do a summary page where you just list the projects similar to how they're listed on page 40, but with, like, I don't know how many, that'd be a 2-page deal, but have the same information in a summary form for each project. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So that, I like this information, it's very good, and this is kind of what we've been asking about. But if you had a summary at the very top, then we could see the other detail behind it.
We talked about that one.
Would it help to have a summary page of all these put together on top of it?
That's what I just said.
Okay.
Mr. Arda has a summary of all the projects where we've issued purchase orders for the boards.
Okay.
We can provide that as part of the report in the future.
I mean, this is very helpful indeed. So I think we already have that, it's just not included.
Well, and Eduardo has it tracked with the 24 projects that are part of the program. Felix's, which I do have here, that's every CIP project that we have.
I tried to pattern this after the AMI report because that's what I thought you could ask for or something.
Well, yeah, I was looking for a timeline. Yeah, I was looking for a timeline, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's really good. It's just, I like all the information. I just like to see the summary in front of me. If that's all right. Sure, y'all can work with that. Ms. Stafford.
So with this packet, as the chairman said, these 5 substations and 8 transmission lines are what are going to be completed by June 21. And this package is what gets us connected to ERCOT, or is there?
That is our internal
That is correct.
construction that's necessary for
Okay,
that.
the internal
upgrade.
construction. Okay.
The
External.
Sureland portion is the external portion that gets us into.
Okay, so there's 2 tracks, there's an internal
Right,
and
that's
external.
correct. That's correct. So this has been planned all along. This is
This is not all the projects though, right? This is
No,
just
we
ones
intend
that-
on, yeah, these are the ones that are scoped, we have a good budget schedule and all that.
So there's other projects that are in the capital improvements plan, so we'll provide sheets on those as time goes forward, but these are the ones that are actually
Yeah,
in the queue right now.
5 substation and 8 transmission, that's a total of 13 out of the 24 that Black and Beach.
13 and 24.
Yes, ma'am. These are the ones that are either being engineered, there's material being procured, or are in construction at this point.
Yeah, so if you look on page 40, I guess that probably runs from, I don't know what I want to do, but 92,406 down to 92,526, something like that. The underground street lights and all that, that's not.
Yeah, that's generally, I mean, you've got the different categories, transformers, substation rebuilds, future substations, transmission lines, but that range is generally, I guess 92402 would be Chalker, down through 526. And then you have 533 and 534, kind of towards the bottom, that are also part of the 115.
Is that you in that range that you're not?
Right.
Yeah.
Just generally that range is right.
Well, this is good information.
A good start.
Yeah, it's a good start, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate y'all doing that. Any other questions for Mr. McGinnis? You still got some more to go.
I've got
Okay,
probably 2 slides.
go ahead.
Actual cost is a cost that, and it's the last sheet in this handout.
Okay,
It's, that's part of the 115 kV upgrade. And keep in mind the almost 7 million that's at the top is just the actual expenses that have hit the books, not the encumbered. So. The last statement is, it's a work in progress. We'll take your recommendations and come back with a better product next month.
no, I think we're good.
It's good. It's great.
Yeah, good information. I like the graphic presentation. I think I've got the total. Well, I'm not good with colors, but it's kind of a bluish looking like to me. I think I get it. So,
Any further questions?
thank you, Blair. All right, item 10 on the agenda is consider a resolution recommending that the city council 4-member appointments to the electric utility board, terms expiring November 1st, 2020, in accordance with section 2.03.415E of the Code of Ordinance, City of Lubbock, Texas. This would be a recommendation to the city council. Mr. Casney, do I need a motion on that resolution before we discuss it? Yes, sir. Okay. I would entertain a motion. Okay. Is there a second? The motion would be in consideration of reappointments of Mr. Odom, Ms. Henry, Ms. Stafford, Mr. McMahon. Second, okay. Motion by Mr. Bowden, second by Mr. Conrad. Any discussion on that? All those individuals are willing to serve, additional term. We sure appreciate their service and appreciate their presence on this board. And if there's not any discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of that resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Very good. That's right. That's 7-0. All right, that'll take us to the consent agenda. There are 3 items on the consent agenda, 11, 12, and 13. Is there any preference to pull any one of those items for separate discussion?
If you want to read through those, but I'll move that we
Okay. Move that we
accept the
approve,
consent
accept items
agenda as
11 through 13 as presented.
Yes, sir.
Second, so motion by Mr. Conrad, second by Ms. Stafford. And I believe since that's on consent, we don't have discussion on that. So, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, so that'd be 7-0. All right, that brings us to the end of the agenda, and so we will be adjourned. Bruce? Yes.
The October meetings, the
October meeting is the 16th.
Next meeting that we changed.
The November meeting, we moved to the 13th. Because Henry and I had this discussion earlier, because I got my months.
Okay, so October, I'll make sure. That's the first. October is the 16th.
16.
Okay, and then the November one's the one we moved to the 13th.
13th.
Got it. Okay.
All right, very good. We will be adjourned.
Y'all.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate your endurance.